Listen. She speaks. And although her voice is but little, surely it is a voice that can part oceans. You may not hear her as she whispers for now, unaware of the might that she holds within. She whimpers out a cry loud enough for only a set few to acknowledge her in the din. You see, she cannot voice herself more than what only a few whispers will allow. So she holds on to whoever hears her in the roaring crowds, knowing that she will be a voice erased if she does not. But those who listen, no, they do not listen for long. So she continues on her own, on her trek towards the darkness of silence. She grows quiet once more. She whispers. She whispers. Until it is her whispers that frustrate her most, as the quiet state that she has forced herself into becomes too loud for her to bear. Her lowered voice becomes too much, and the words that she had let out below her breath becomes a whirlpool. Suddenly, she finds herself trapped inside that ever-spiraling gyre, stuck inside the eye of the storm that she threatens to break free from. It is her quiet amidst the noise of others that frustrates her most, until her very low and whispered breaths become the very wind beneath her wings. She rises above her whisper. Her quiet shatters. She screams. She now breaks free from the shackles of silence as she soars above the ocean of tears that she had once cried for herself. Immediately, she lets go of the hand that she used to hold. The hand belonging to those who had claimed to hear her, but who had never truly listened. Now she knows that she no longer needs a hand from another to keep her warm. For now, she finds herself drowning in her desire for her own touch, her own safety. Because now she knows that she needs no other hand, because no other hand fits better in hers, like her own. And she prays that she will never forget this, as to never take that trip back to the darkness in silence. Because now that she has found her own voice, the gravitational pull of her own tone entices her, and she finds herself falling in love with herself over and over again. Now that she has found her own voice, although she closes her eyes at night, tick-tock, dark is over, and the puzzle pieces that she had mended by herself becomes the doorway to light. The light that she now wears in her smile as she tells the world her story. The story of how she had used her words as wings to soar above and conquer the demons that had once forced her lips shut. The story that betrays all barriers of language. The story that touched the hearts of all those yearning to find their own voices as well. The story of when her voice was but so little until it had become the tempest that even grown men fear. The story she would love to tell you herself, if only you would listen. Listen. Please listen. She speaks. I speak.
I can picture myself telling my grandchildren about a story called COVID-19. When I first heard about this story, I found it to be extremely unique because it is one of the first stories that I've ever heard of that could spread without being told. A cough, sneeze, or a simple touch was enough to encourage the spreading of the story. However, no one favored these three methods, as they could lead to more harm than good. A good day to the adjudicators, staff, and learners of Riebeek College. My topic for today is Thoughts of a Contemporary Historic Girl. COVID-19 is a respiratory virus which spreads primarily through droplets generated when an infected person coughs or sneezes, or through droplets of saliva. I'm sure that by now you would have guessed that I've been referring to the COVID-19 pandemic, also referred to as the coronavirus pandemic. Life during this pandemic has allowed me to do a lot more thinking than usual. Perhaps it is the thought that life after this global outbreak will never be the same again, and that we might be heading for a fifth industrial revolution. We are all aware that this global outbreak meant that we had to stay indoors and maintain social distancing as to prevent the spread of the virus. Since schools have closed, learners such as myself had to adjust to socializing and learning remotely and sacrifice comfort and convenience for the greater good. One day, while working on my history project, I came upon a question which required the reliability and usefulness for a few sources, which were related to some major historical events. For those who don't take history as a subject, history learners are provided with a formula that helps in answering this type of a question. All that was needed was to fill in the blank spaces. Before answering this question in the project, I thought that I'd rather practice answering this question so that I could get used to answering it. But this time around, I would use my experience during the pandemic as a source. I began as follows. I, Kamvalihle, am a primary source, as I was present during the time of the coronavirus pandemic in 2020. Therefore, I am an eyewitness to the events of the COVID-19 pandemic. I am a reliable source because I have experienced the effects of the global outbreak and am useful because I do have the necessary information needed to know about this event. After realizing everything that I had said, I believed that I was allowing this pandemic to get to my head. But I have always wondered what it feels like to be a part of a life-changing major historical event. I can truthfully say that I did get a taste of what I wanted, but I never imagined that the whole world would have to be at a war against an invisible enemy. This pandemic has allowed me to stop undermining events such as the bubonic plague and the influenza pandemic, just to mention a few. But I do strongly believe that this too shall pass. In the words of Helen Keller, although the world is full of suffering, it is also of the overcoming of it. Thank you.
If I ain't beautiful to you, I know I am to God. Now if God is our Father and He lives within us, doesn't that make ourselves self-gods too? In simplicity, what I'm trying to say is, you are your own God. You determine what you do. You determine your next step. Don't let perception of how people see you, the mirror, the camera, determine who you truly are. Because after all, it's a matter of making yourself or breaking yourself. After all, it's mirror, mirror, we're all the fairies, after all.
Good day, my name is Nobuhle Moho, and today my topic is a conversation between the mighty coronavirus and I. You're so disruptive and unfair. When are you ending? Disruptive and unfair. When am I ending? Now you know when something is disruptive and unfair. Now you want to play the victim. After all you've done as human beings. I've been watching you, keeping my hate and anger inside me. Now that I'm showing myself out, you're saying I'm being disruptive. Now I'm here, you're blaming one another, forming conspiracies of why is coronavirus here. and looking for a scapegoat. Remember when you thought you were the only species on Mother Earth? Removing animals from their habitats for your good. Taking advantage since you knew that you were more advanced. After bullying one another, stealing resources and controlling others, then you have the nerve to say I'm unfair. After hating, being racist, tribalistic and coloristic, then I'm being unfair and disruptive. Discriminating others, gender violating, raping, but you have the nerve to say I'm being unfair. Oh, coronavirus. After promoting a junior instead of a senior because of color, killing albinos for wealth, molesting young virgin girls in order to cure HIV and AIDS, then you say I'm being disruptive. After removing animals, killing elephants for their tusks, endangering rhinos, polluting marine waters with your own plastic and nonsense, then I'm being disruptive. Your sins are countless and endless, but you ask me, when am I ending? Really? Really? A wise man once said, everybody deserves a second chance. Maybe I might forgive you, maybe not, but maybe. I'm teaching you a lesson. I am here to teach you the hard way. And I hope you are learning, because as soon as I leave, I do not want to see you repeating the same mistakes again. Otherwise, I'm coming back. I hope you have learned, humans. I hope you are learning, humans. I hope you have learned. I really hope you are learning. Thank you.
What is love? Love is like a perfect melody to a deaf person, a beautiful sight to someone who's blind, a cure to a disease that doesn't even exist. What is love? Love is anything you want it to be. Wait, let me rephrase that. Love is anything people make it out to be. A man who rapes his wife's child countless times in the basement. His love. A man who abuses his wife and forces his son to record it as a family lesson. His love. You know what? Don't even ask me what love is until you know who you are. Oh, I'm in love. Post it on every social media account. And depending on the type of person you are, I pity you. No, I'm not in love. But don't underestimate me, saying I'm weaker or stronger. Just know that I'm not you. Scared, worried, anxious. Did I mention someone that you're thinking of? Don't bother. Trying to show a person the bad effects of their love is like asking a paralyzed person, how does it feel when I stab you? Know who you are before you ask what love is. Because I know who I am. That's why I know what love is not.
How lockdown has changed our lives. Since lockdown had started the 27th of March this year, we start to notice how distant life felt before lockdown and how our lives have changed. We feel as if this virus is controlling our lives. It has interrupted our lifestyles, has taken away our freedom of choice, our freedom of movement. And during this time, we've all learned that nobody knows what freedom really is until we've lost it. But with the negatives comes positives. We've seen how many things we have taken for granted, such as having the freedom to walk around the block, and a quick trip to shop for essentials feels like a break of freedom. The simple pleasures in life are being rediscovered, like families playing board games together again, or as simple as watching the sunset from a backyard. With many of us at home, family time has increased, With the hustle and bustle of pre-lockdown life, family time has always been cut short, especially with parents at work. With the chaos and stress put aside, we're shown just how precious one's life is and how easily it is affected. This virus interrupted our lives to show us what really is important to us and makes us think about what we spend most of our time on. We are so distracted by everyday things like cell phones and work that we don't put family first anymore. Not only are we affected by lockdown, but also the earth. Discoveries have shown that the earth has been its healthiest it's been in years. With most of the world staying at home, it has put a pause on pollution and global warming. Unfortunately, many households have lost their usual means of income during this time. South Africa has grown deeper and deeper into poverty. Lockdown has caused financial damage to this country that will take generations to repair. Yet, South Africa still stands together. We have witnessed a number of South Africans helping those less fortunate at this time, and families across the country are currently being blessed. Everyone needs to remember that it's difficult to stay positive, but nobody ever hurt their eyes looking at the bright side. Thank you.
Poverty begins to take over in my community. Pain begins to be a mutual feeling that spreads so easily. When I witness how my brothers and sisters have become slaves of anger, mothers of my township become drunkards and hoover around, fathers normalize leaving us in our mother's womb, I witness the granny living 2 houses away, being stripped of her own dignity, in pain and in agony. That's when grandsons no longer pick and choose who to rape anymore. That stripped away my innocent mind. That took away my life and vibey soul, my creativity, and mostly my happiness. But my voice was all that was left. My voice speaks for minorities with no voice of their own. My voice refuses to be still. Not now, not whilst I still walk in fear of being the next victim. My voice refuses to look at the snot-nosed, hungry and filthy 5-year-old at the corner of my street and do nothing. Even though my heart is in exile, my voice refuses to lose hope. Gunshots 2 blocks away from my block of flats are so loud, but my voice screams louder. Advertisements of tombstones and for coffins stick to the stinking breeze laced with the image of immorality. Every day, it's the same tragedy, death. Every weekend, it's the same event, funerals, just a different name. But like thunder, my voice still strikes. When women begin to buy pepper sprays to protect themselves, when men begin to buy guns and knives to protect their families, I speak, I shout, I declare. My voice is the gun that will shoot open wounds into realization, that will scream no whenever everybody is still quiet. The shield and the weapon. My voice refuses to be still and do nothing. My innocence may be stripped away, my dignity may be taken away, townships may ruin everything that I stand and live for, but my voice refuses to give in.
Happiness is a direction, not a place. At some point in our lives, we've all experienced the feeling of being lost or directionless, going through life day by day without feeling happy or fulfilled. In the modern world, it has become increasingly important for us to highlight the importance of self-care and happiness instead of allowing the shackles of responsibility to completely take over and distract us. Now, don't get me wrong, responsibility is important. However, it is also important to realize that sometimes our own approach to life can result in our own self-destruction. Life is a journey, and while we may never be certain of the destination, what matters is the memories we make along the way, and we should cherish those. Think of it as climbing up a mountain. Some parts of the journey may be relatively smooth and easy, however, other parts of the journey may be relatively rocky and strenuous. but what constantly runs through your mind is that feeling of euphoria as you keep progressing. Therefore, it is not always a bad thing to feel lost, and we shouldn't feel the need to disregard or dismiss that feeling as it forms part of the journey of life. You don't have to feel the need to keep up with everyone else or the standards imposed upon you. As human beings, some of us may know what we want in life, however, some of us may not know what we want in life. However, once we have a destination set in mind, it may not be the same for everyone, as the journey of life is distinct and different for everyone. Therefore, we shouldn't feel the need to compare ourselves or our lives to that of others. When we start comparing our lives to that of others, we start feeling an intense need for validation. This, my friends, only makes us feel bad about ourselves, and we end up resenting ourselves for it. And I know you've heard this 1,000 times, and so have I. It's cliche by this point. But everyone is different and unique. Each of us has something different to bring to the table. Think of it as being a flavor of candy, but 7 billion different flavors of candies. Each of us are so different and diverse, but we are unified in the way we are human, and that makes us equal. What are the mistakes we tend to make?
21 days of lockdown. If anything kills over 10 million people over the next few years, it's most likely to be a highly infectious virus rather than a war. Not missiles, but microbes. This was Bill Gates' warning to us 5 years ago at his TED Talk. Good morning, Ms. Pelterson and fellow learners. Bill Gates' prediction came true with this year's global COVID-19 pandemic. This pandemic marks almost a century from the previous influenza pandemic called the Spanish flu. Under the circumstances, you would expect South Africans to be hysterical with fear. But instead, we were focusing on the lit memes and the corona dance trending on TikTok. We were laughing and living our best lives until President Ramaphosa announced lockdown for 21 days. People began arriving at Pick n Pay with their homemade masks and gloves. Dettol and toilet paper was flying off the shelves. People were wrestling each other to the ground for hand sanitizer. We were not only living during a pandemic, but were starring in the Hunger Games. Day 1 of lockdown. Army troops and police were deployed across the country. Our cases grew to 927 with 2 deaths. When I thought things couldn't get any worse, our geyser burst, which meant I couldn't bath using hot water for 3 whole weeks. I soon became best friends with a kettle, hosepipe, and bucket. Day 5 of lockdown. Our cases grew to 1,380, with 5 deaths. I, on the other hand, took up yoga to deal with my crazy family. I learned a new pose called Shavasana, which means corpse pose in Sanskrit. I'm sure you guys can tell how done I was with my annoying family. On the 12th day of lockdown, our cases grew to 1,686, and I have gone crazy. I have sung Into the Unknown for 5 hours straight, and my sister has contemplated sealing my braces together with a cable tie. Day 16 of lockdown. I've eaten all the quarantine food. So, does the producers of my 600-pound life find me? Or do I call them? How does it work? Day 21 of lockdown. This was supposed to be the last day of lockdown, but we are still counting. And I don't think it will end anytime soon. My point is, I hope we have all used lockdown as a time to spend with our family, and a time to focus on what is really important in life. Thank you.
Oh, South Africa, let's move. Good morning, Mrs. Pelterson and fellow pupils. Many people think that South Africa is a third world country with no hope and many problems. This is the reason why many of our fellow South Africans are emigrating to other countries. But there are so many reasons why South Africa is a beautiful country. We have overcome so many dilemmas already. For example, apartheid. We were all separated because of the colors of our skin. Now look at us. A beautiful rainbow nation, described by our diverse national anthem and our colorful flag. Not to mention that we are the only country with 11 official languages. From my perspective, I think we have had one of the world's best presidents, Nelson Mandela, my own personal role model. He sacrificed almost half of his life to make South Africa an equal country for us all. Finally, Mapungubwe, located in Limpopo close to the northern border. It is believed to have been the cradle of mankind due to significant discoveries and evidence found there. This means South Africa could have been the start of all humankind. My point is, our country is a great tourist attraction and we should be proud of the history and background that it holds. If we want to make South Africa a better country, we should think of the words that Nelson Mandela said, and I quote, "A winner is a dreamer that never gives up."